and
Always.
These. I think about the small guys that are in rural America that think the federal government is all in Washington D.C.
Mm-hmm.
There are more opportunities for them, for the handyman or for the residential builder that can put in a toilet or can be on call for emergency.
Right.
There are more agencies in your own backyard. Now, they don't advertise on TV, so probably you wouldn't be able to see them.
Yeah.
But they're there.
Right.
And they need emergency services. They need long-term service contracts.
Yeah.
If you're in the snow belt, if there's a parking lot to a federal building,
it's got to be blown.
It's got to be blown. It's got to have their lawn mowed. They got to have their bushes trimmed. They have to have the snow plowed.
Yeah.
They don't have employees to do
snow
that
removal
job.
contracts are huge.
Huge.
Guys, huge.
That's
I'm
huge.
talking multi-million-dollar contracts.
That is big.
And no matter what, every year they happen.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not going to snow next year.
In New Hampshire. It's not like it's not going to snow in New Hampshire. Has anyone won a federal contract recently?
Has anyone?
In the last 10 minutes?
Anyone?
I'm sure there has.
Let me.
10 minutes. What's the rate? It's crazy numbers. How many contracts are awarded
The federal government
on an hourly basis?
What was the stat? The federal government awards a contract every 3 seconds or something like that? Or?
That's pretty recently, John.
No. The federal government awards $8 million every 3 seconds or something like that.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a crazy number, and it's so. Has anyone won a federal contract recently? Just now. Every time you hear a bell ring, an angel gets his wings. Or contractor gets his federal contract every time you hear a bell ring.
Don Corville said, thank you, Don. We appreciate you. Better to be an LLC. This is also from Don Corville. Better to be an LLC or just a small business. Every state's different.
Sole proprietor.
Sole proprietor, DBA, LLC, C Corp, S Corp. Every state is different. Every county is different. Every city is different. They all have different rules and laws. So it's based on your state and your city and your county, whether it's better off to be an S Corp or an LLC or a C Corp or a sole proprietor or whatever. So that's really something you would have to ask on a specific basis. You can start out as a DBA, though. We got plenty of people start out as a DBA, won a contract, made some money, and then upgraded to an LLC or an S Corp. Blah, blah, blah.
And of course, it's based upon what if you're a one man band, you can be an LLC or you can be a sole proprietor.
Right.
It's all about what you want to do. So that's kind of like the advice to that. I like the Patrick Kemp's. Do you provide any special services, prices, or recommendations for service-disabled veteran-owned business, enterprise, or minority-owned? We are a startup but have years of experience. How many times have we heard that, John?
Yeah.
Startup but years of experience.
Yep.
The best thing to answer that question, I would say, is special services and prices or recommendations. There's always going to be the best recommendation for your company. You're always going to get the best price for help, and you're always going to get the services that we provide, whether it be you or anyone in our client of ours. Everyone's special.
Yeah.
Everyone gets the same level of service, but as a service-disabled, minority-owned business, there are more contracts available to you than you realize.
It's crazy.
Whether you're making, a medical device, or provide training services, or anything. It's a mandatory spending requirement. Everybody out there, there's a key word, mandatory.
Mandatory. And remember, there's 69,000 women-owned small businesses right now. There's only 40,000 veterans. So you got half as much competition as the women do. And I'm not saying that for the women-owned small businesses, you have a little more competition, but you still got benefit as a woman in a small business. It's just that veterans, there's almost half as many veterans. So they have a better shot of winning contracts quicker because they have less competition.
Robert Urban, if not located in a hub zone, would it be feasible to move to a hub zone to enhance possibilities?
Yes, as long as it's your primary operating, as long as your main office. You have to use your main office. You can't just get an office in a hub zone.
That's correct.
That's my main office.
Yeah, it's not a virtual office, and of course, that's not the only requirement. For a hub zone
35% of your employees have to live in a hub zone too. So,
and does it enhance your possibilities? Again, Robert, that is a mandatory spending requirement.
Huge. Hub zones get 3%, just like service-disabled veterans get 3%, but there's 16,000 service-disabled veterans. There's only 4,100 hub zones. So, yeah, definitely beneficial. But it has to be your main office, and 35 senior employees have to live in that office or live in a hub zone, not in the office.
Right. Wait a minute, that's us.
It's because we're here so much. We actually live
exactly.
We got time for more questions, David?
Let's start to transition into APP.
Okay.
So on the teleprompter, we have these questions.
Okay. So, do you have any quick tips for using APP to find the best contract opportunities for your business? So this is a question for APP. Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can search APP by multiple keyword. You can add keywords to NAICS code so that's a real specific. And just don't overthink this. Seriously, find something to bid on and let's do it.
But use it.
Use it, exactly. Yeah, you have to get in and use APP for it to work.
You can't get the gold out of the ground if you don't pick up that tool and start digging.
Yep.
Without it, it's still sitting there and you're still looking at the tool. You got to use it.